Are you tired of looking like this after a night on Prizepicks? For the price of that Big Mac combo you chowed down on this week, get access to hundreds of picks. Connect your Discord to WAP with the link in the description and be added straight to the premium Discord. We'll be sending every single Prizepicks slip we place.
Let's get some Prizepicks in today, guys. After going on a pretty hot run of a 10-2 run last night, we went 1-2 again. In the slip, I had Dylan Brooks and Sengun, and I also had Jalen Johnson on the over 14.5 points. He was in this specific slip, but he also missed. So Dylan Brooks hooked here at 11 points, and Sengun was the only prop that hit for a 1-2 day on the YouTube picks. Now for tonight, I have 4 more picks. I'm going to have 2 from this Minnesota game and then 2 from this Toronto game. And I just want to talk a little bit about this popular tab here, guys. So Prizepicks does have this popular tab. It's been here for a while, but I've never really spoke on it. So this popular tab is essentially just picks that people are all on. And the reason they're all on it, if you guys check every game log, people are just checking the past 5 games. I just want to say, guys, the past 5 games mean pretty much nothing. They mean pretty much nothing when it comes to guessing right picks. I'm not saying these picks are good or bad, but most likely if you're going with the public, it's normally a bad idea because the public doesn't really know what they're doing. So if you have every player on Prizepicks, a good chunk of the players on Prizepicks are losing money in the long run. So if you're taking a pick of players that are losing in the long run, you're not going to be doing well if you're just going on the popular tab, taking all 5 guys and grabbing the overs. At the very least, you guys should be checking, is this actually a good prop? How's the value on it? Are the odds favored towards these props? So like I could take a random example like Keegan Murray here. So he has hit in the past 5. That's why he's in the popular tab, because probably people are going through Prizepicks, clicking all these game logs and checking who has hit in the past 5. And I could show you all these guys. They're all hit at least 4 out of 5 times. That's why they're in the popular tab. There's a lot of players that don't really know how to win, to be honest. Just go through this and check the past 5 game logs and hope that that works for them. So you see all these guys are at least 4 out of 5. Only 2 of them were 3 out of 5 in the past 5 games. But you could do like Keegan Murray, for example. If we go check his block shots on props.cash. By the way, I do have a discount code, 25% off your first month on props.cash if you guys do want to use this. Keegan Murray on the blocks, we could check him. Yes, he has hit the past 5 games. The previous games before that, he did not hit. But you could also check the juice, right? So BetMGM and Caesars do have juice towards the over. So okay, maybe the over is actually a decent play here, but not because he hit in the past 5 games, because sportsbooks are also seeing that this over is more likely to hit. Now, the higher the minus, the more likely it is to hit. You also have to consider like the matchups. Who did they play in the past 5 games? You can see Detroit here right away. These are actually some decent matchups here. Philly, Milwaukee, and Phoenix. But Charlotte and Detroit, who are they playing tonight? You know, these things matter. There's a lot more factors that go into this than the past 5 games. So don't really rely on that popular tab too much. But the main thing you really want to look at is the juice. So in this case, it does look like Keegan Murray is a decent pick if you want to take his over on the blocks. Now, I wouldn't do that. But Jalen Williams is another pick I would look at here. On the 29.5 PRA, he is here on the popular tab, right? He has hit this in the past 4 out of 5 games. So a lot of people are probably on that over 29.5 PRA, which is why he's on that tab. If you're looking at the juice, every sportsbook has his juice towards the under, which essentially means that all these data points are telling you that the under is more favored to happen. But since you're on Prizepicks and you saw his popular tab past 4 to 5, you're going to be taking the over, which means you're taking a bet that is less likely to hit when the under is actually the correct play based on more data. I'm not going to go into like an analysis on Jalen Williams why the under is a play. All you have to know is that the sportsbooks are juicing him towards the under. And that is at least a good indication that the lean is towards the under, not the over. Now, like I said, doesn't necessarily mean it's a good or bad pick, but don't just take these at face value. Kind of look into them a bit more. Just because they're popular doesn't mean they're good. And just because the guys hit in the past 5 games, Rudy Gobert maybe 4 out of 5, averaging 16 in the last 5, doesn't mean you should just go automatically take his over. Now, there actually is 2 players I'm taking from these popular tabs. And I'm going to take the overs on both of them, right? The first one is Anthony Edwards, who has hit in the past 3 out of 5 games. But again, that's not what I'm looking at. And then RJ Barrett has actually hit in the past 4 out of 5. Now, I'm taking these guys because there actually is juice towards these guys' overs. These sportsbooks do agree that these are good picks. So we'll start with Anthony Edwards on the over 4.5 assists. So you can see here right away, every sportsbook does have juice towards that over minus 130, minus 130, minus 125 at the lowest. So already right away, that is a great indication that the over actually is a good play despite it being in the popular tab. I'm sure a lot of people are on Edwards after his performance versus Detroit last night. I'm pretty sure he had 6 assists by the first quarter, which was pretty insane. But tonight they are up against the Grizzlies. They are playing at home and it is a minus 12 spread with a very low total. So 214, basically Vegas is saying they expect this total to be around 214 points. That is very low compared to, I don't know what the Detroit game was at, but I'm sure it was higher than that because it's pretty low in comparison to the average. Over-unders normally around like 225-ish, 230. On the high end, like 248 if it's a Pacers game. But this is a pretty low total, which means there might not be a lot of points, which means less assisting opportunities for Anthony Edwards. And you can even see that reflected in his points total. Like last night, he was set at 28.5. And yes, Detroit is an easier matchup. But again, they're also pricing in this lower scoring game and the potential of a blowout with a minus 12 spread. could mean less minutes for Anthony Edwards. So even though there is juice towards this over 4.5, it's mainly because Anthony Edwards is playing very well. He has amazing splits throughout the season, averaging 5 assists per game. But this specific matchup, I would say, is not that great compared to the matchup he had last night. Memphis defense actually 9th in assists allowed. As I just showed you, the spread is high, the total is low. Both things that are going against us when we're grabbing an over. We could also check his home splits, where he does clear this a bit more often at a 71% hit rate this season. And they actually have played versus Memphis twice this season. Once he dropped 7 assists and once he only dropped 1 assist. But clearly he's capable of getting these assists since he did this first game they played with 7 assists. So that's just a little rundown on Anthony Edwards, why I'm liking the over 4.5 assists, despite it being a popular pick, which I'd normally be a bit wary about. So 4.5 assists on Anthony Edwards. The next one I want to take him with, sort of pair him with, because if one does well, the other is going to do well, is Jaden McDaniels. Now, I don't want to take his points prop. I'm kind of liking his fantasy score on the over 19.5. So I use these two sites for fantasy score projections. I'm not affiliated with either of them, but sportsline.com is one of them. It's free, so I just take a look at it. And I noticed these guys like really put their fantasy scores low. Like they have low estimates compared to the other fantasy score sites I've seen. Essentially, I'm looking at this FanDuel column right here because if you don't know, FanDuel also has their own fantasy scores, fantasy props on their site. And Prizepicks uses the exact same calculations for their fantasy score as FanDuel, which means like a point is worth the same as a point on FanDuel. And with that projection, they have him at 19.3 FanDuel points, which again, just replace that with Prizepicks points, the exact same thing. So that's like right under the 19.5 fantasy score that's projected for Jaden McDaniels on Prizepicks. But again, as I said, Sportsline does kind of project pretty low. So I do look at a second projection site, and that's going to be RotoWire. Now, RotoWire is actually projected at 23 fantasy points, which is quite a bit higher than the Prizepicks line here at 19.5. But I did look into it a bit further. If you guys don't know how the fantasy scoring works, it's points, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals are all worth a couple of points here. Blocks and steals being worth the most, and then the turnover is -1. We could use this scoring chart to kind of project how many fantasy points he's going to get tonight. And I was looking at each of his props here. So on the points, he's projected about 11.5. So we could expect him to get around 10 to 12 points tonight. Let's go on the low end and say he gets 10 points tonight, which is worth 10 fantasy score. So already we're at 10. Now rebounds is heavily juiced towards the over 2.5. So -166. I think he's going to get at least 2 to 3 rebounds tonight. If he gets 3, that's an extra 4.5 points. We're already at 14.5 points. Now assists, he's set at 1.5 assists, but heavy juice towards that under. He's averaging 1.3 assists per game. So let's project 1 assist for him. So 14.5 plus 1.2, we're at 15.7. And we can also check turnovers. He is averaging about 1.2 turnovers per game. Heavy juice towards the under. Probably going to get 1 turnover. So that's -1 from that 15.7, and we're at 14.7. Now what matters the most is these steals and blocks. How many steals and blocks is he going to get? Right now, he's at a 50-50 split between the over 1.5 and under 1.5, which means there's a good chance he either gets 1 or 2 steals and blocks tonight. But I was checking some Memphis stats here, and they actually are 30th in blocks allowed and 20th in steals allowed, which does look good for Jaden McDaniels here. So he does average 1.4 steals and blocks per game, but if he does crack that 2 mark, which he often does, if he cracks that 3, we're for sure hitting. But let's project that he gets 2 rather than 1, and it's looking much better than us. I did say we were at about 14.7 fantasy score projected right now. If we add the 3 from 1 steal and we had another 3 from the other block, we got 20.7. I mean, it could be 2 steals, 2 blocks, whatever it may be. 20.7 is probably where he's going to get around tonight if he does get the steals and blocks. If he does not get any steals or blocks and maybe only 1, I do think this prop is going to cash. So we're really relying on those 2 steals or blocks, giving us an extra 6 points on that fantasy score. Now again, if these guys are doing a blowout and getting completely reduced minutes, both of these guys are going to chalk right now. I'm telling you this. So it is a risky prop in terms of blowout potential, but hopefully Memphis can keep it a bit tighter, or maybe it only gets more of a blowout towards the end of the game, because this is still a back-to-back for Minnesota, so hopefully they don't go too crazy tonight. But yeah, that is the first 2 picks. Anthony Edwards over assists, Jaden McDaniels over fantasy score. Next, I want to move on to the Toronto game, and I did say I was taking another player from the popular tab, RJ Barrett on the over 20.5 points. But the reason I'm taking RJ Barrett's over is, one, because he has juice, but it's also this kind of pairing I've seen on the Toronto Raptors now that he has joined the team, is that if RJ Barrett is doing well and going over his points prop, it's less likely that Scotty Barnes is also having a great game and going over his points props. So if we're to take both these guys over, it's going to happen less often than if we're to take 1 over and 1 under. So we're hoping that RJ Barrett does very well, maybe drops even 30 points. Scotty Barnes is not going to be getting as many points if RJ Barrett and maybe quickly are getting most of the points for the team. But I don't like this at 19 anymore. It was on 19.5 when I was recording, but at the bump, I would go with the points, rebounds, assists instead. So Scotty Barnes under PRA with RJ Barrett over points. So I'm looking at RJ Barrett. He does actually have juice towards that over. -125 on DraftKings. Basically all the sportsbook with juice towards that over. So it's good to see. As I said in the beginning of this video, these popular picks are not exactly automatically good or bad. You got to still look into them a little bit more. And I'm liking RJ Barrett's over 20.5 points. But because I like to pair him with Scotty Barnes. And I was going with Scotty Barnes because there is juice towards his under. You see all the way up to minus 130. So pretty good juice on his under 19.5. But he did get bumped to 19. And I don't want to worry about pushing. So I'm going to go with the PRA instead. Look at this graph. It's pretty much exactly the same as the PRA when it comes to clearing this line. He cleared it in the Knicks game here and in the Lakers game here. And if you check the PRA, he cleared it in the Knicks game here, Lakers game here. Just the only difference is in this Jazz game, he cleared the points but did not clear the PRA. You could see versus Jazz, he barely cleared that. Then last night, he actually did not clear his points prop. It was set at 20.5. He got right under. So what I'm going for with the RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes actually happened exactly last night. RJ Barrett went over his points prop. Scotty Barnes went right under his points prop. And honestly, I don't know what his PRA was set at yesterday. I would imagine probably 33.5 or 32.5. He might have hit this. I'm not exactly sure. But the idea is if RJ Barrett's having a good game, Scotty Barnes is less likely to also have a good game. And just to show you close up here, RJ Barrett has cleared this in every game except this middle game right here. And if you notice Scotty Barnes, he cleared it in that middle game right here. I know it says push, but this was versus the Jazz where his line was set at 18.5. It also says he cleared it here, but he did not. As I said, his line was 20.5 yesterday. And then he cleared it only one time together with RJ Barrett in this game right here. So in the past 5 games, they've only both went over together 1 out of 5 times, which means, it's good to take the over on one, under on the other. And I've checked throughout the whole season, ever since RJ joined, 8 out of 11 times, if one goes over, the other is going to go under. So I am liking this Minnesota stack and this Toronto stack. You guys could drop this into a 4 power. I'm probably going to go find 2 more players and throw this into a 6 flex. But these are the 4 picks for tonight. Good luck.